Next from Springfield, Republican House Leader Tom Cross and Republican Senate Leader Christine Radogno joined Comptroller Judy Baar Topinka and former Governor Jim Edgar in expressing their support for Senate Bill 957, which would grant temporary driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. This runs about 18 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lawrence Benito. I'm the Chief Executive Officer with the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights and also a member of the Highway Safety Coalition. We welcome everyone to this press conference today in support of highway safety legislation. We are proud to be standing with Republican leaders in support of this legislation that will be moving this week. Today we are joined by House Leader Tom Cross, Senate Leader, Republican Leader Christine Radogno, former Governor and Secretary of State Jim Edgar, Comptroller Judy Baar Topinka, and other business leaders. We'll also be hearing from a couple of members of the General Assembly as well. But want to thank the Republican leaders for their support of this legislation, particularly at a time when there's a lot of heat around this issue. We believe this is a good public safety issue that ensures that our roads are safe for everyone who drives on our roads. I would like now to introduce House Republican Leader Tom Cross to say a few words.
Lawrence, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here, and I've enjoyed working with Lawrence Benito and his group, not just on this issue, but on others, but in particular on this issue over the last few weeks, and I appreciate his approach to this and the crafting of the bill and the narrow drafting of it, and I think it accomplishes what we want it to do. For me, this has been somewhat of a process of evolution where a number of years ago we were not supportive of, I was not supportive of this bill. I think a lot of us felt like the federal government would be more aggressive and proactive on the issue of immigration, and clearly they have not. And so we find ourselves in the state of Illinois with several 100,000 folks potentially have the potential to drive without licenses, and Senate Bill 957 takes that head on and says we're going to make this about public safety and make our roads safer. I was doing a radio show this morning in the city of Chicago, with somebody from the city of Chicago. I was here, and one of the hosts said that she had twice by individuals without insurance and without driver's license. She said, I'm so glad that the state of Illinois is finally doing this. This bill will require drivers to pass written, road, and vision tests like other Illinois driver. In New Mexico, traffic fatalities have fallen by 23% since they put similar provisions in place. I think this makes a lot of sense, and for those out there who want to say this is the wrong thing to do, there's all kinds of potential for mischief. Be very clear that this does not allow someone to use this temporary form of identification to vote, to board a plane, to get into a government building, to buy alcohol. It's used for driving. And this will, in my opinion, make our roads safer, and I'm pleased to be here and support it. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I think with that, I'm to turn it over to Senator Radogno. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leader Cross. Obviously, this is not a new issue, but it certainly is an emotional issue. It's one that's been around this building for quite some time. I think we had a vote on it probably 5 years ago. At that time, some of the concerns with respect to the language were not addressed, and so it didn't make it all the way. But the discussion has continued, and the fact of the matter is we have a problem in this country because the federal government has not addressed the issue of undocumented immigrants, and yet they are here, they are with us. Some of them came not even of their own volition, and yet we expect them to ride their bicycles to work, I guess, for the rest of their lives. So we've got to tackle this problem. Other states have tried. I think the effort that we have before us today is a good one. I think we've made a lot of strides to try to address the concerns that people have raised. And that we should move forward. I think there's definitely a public safety advantage here that will ensure that, or at least increase the chances that more motorists will have insurance going forward. I think it's the right time to take this step, and we will evaluate it as we go forward, but I'm very pleased to be here supporting it today. Thank you. And with that, I will turn it over to former Governor Jim Edgar.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here in support of this traffic safety measure. I spent 10 years as Secretary of State before I was governor, and traffic safety was our major concern. And we made strides. We dealt with the problem of drunk drivers, and we also got a mandatory auto insurance law passed. But we know that wasn't all that was needed. And we have a problem today with tens of thousands of undocumented immigrants who drive illegally. They haven't been tested. They often don't have insurance. We need to change that. This legislation will allow us to make giant strides in achieving that goal. And I think anyone who's concerned about safety on the highways would be supportive of this legislation. Let me also just say that this is not a new concern of mine. The last time this came up, I made calls, I was for it, and I'm delighted to see the progress that we've made. I'm also, I have to say, and let me just put on my partisan hat here, I'm delighted to be here with Republican leaders in state government who is supportive of this. A couple of weeks ago, I was with a group of people, the state treasurer and I think we're kind of the lone Republicans who spoke, and we were with the Democratic leadership in the state. So this is not a partisan issue. This is a bipartisan issue now. And I think that's very encouraging, and I think that bodes well for not only this piece of legislation, which is so important, but I think it bodes well for the whole system that we see on an important issue like this, that Republicans and Democrats are coming together and trying to find common ground and to solve the problems we face. I only wish in Washington, D.C., they can emulate what is going on here in Springfield. So again, it's my pleasure to be here, and I think, my pleasure to introduce my good friend, former colleague, the State Comptroller of the State of Illinois, Judy Baar Topinka.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Governor, and legislative leaders and fellow legislators. I always still feel as though I'm part of the legislature. I'll never forget that wonderful experience. And the trouble is I miss having the vote because I'd love to cast a vote for this one. This is a good thing. And I'll tell you why. I'm very pragmatic about how we get business done in the state of Illinois. I'm not an ideologue. Let's move the ball forward. We have so many folks out there who are driving around without any documentation, any testing, and it's a very dangerous situation. I look at how it would affect my family. I look at it how it would affect the families of the state of Illinois. I don't want to get hit by someone who doesn't have insurance. I don't want my family to get hit by someone who doesn't have insurance, or your families to get hit by someone who doesn't have insurance. Someone who's not been tested, who doesn't know the rules of the road, who's just out there driving because they have to drive. They have to get to work, they have to get to school, they have to get to daycare, they have to get to do all the things that we have to do. There are numerous people who are out there, documented and undocumented, and we need to get after them so we know where they are, to make sure we know who they are, and to make sure they're safe so that we can all be safe. You know, we have tens of thousands of people on Illinois roads right now without necessary training, and without passing a vision or a road test. This is not any kind of a bill that's an ID card. You can't vote with it. You can't do anything with it but drive. And it's something that is long in coming. We're probably long overdue. I think it's a great idea. It's a specially designated license. It's just the kind of thing that we give to foreign students. Temporary workers already have things like this. I know if I went overseas, this is probably the type of license I could get if I drove in another country. It's a good idea. Its time has come. I am very pleased that in a very bipartisan manner, we can get this job done. So thank you very much, and I will now turn this over to Lawrence. Thank you.
Thank you all for your comments. I was remiss in my introductions to recognize Senator Brady. I'd invite Senator Brady to say a few words.
Thank you. Lawrence, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Like Representative Cross, there was a similar measure to this a couple years ago that I couldn't support. But clearly, even then, we knew we had a public safety problem. People die because of this. People have accidents that are uninsured, millions and millions of dollars in claims. This legislation will move public safety forward in that it will educate, train, and test drivers and authorize them to have insurance protecting the motorists that they may get into a conflict with. One of the reasons I'm supporting it this time is because Lawrence agreed to language which I offered as an amendment to the bill. One of my major concerns last time was security in terms of airports, voting, purchasing firearms, and other things. Their adoption of making it statutory that this cannot be used as identification for those purposes came a long way, and I think helping bring a number of Republicans over to this issue to address this very important public safety issue. So I'm pleased to be here in support and a co-sponsor of the bill. Thank you.
I'd also like to recognize Representative Saviano and Senator Sandak that also joined us. Representative Saviano, would you like to say a couple words?
You know, I supported this version bill 5 years ago, so I'm obviously a longtime supporter. Being a legislator as long as I have, 20 years, a common thread in phone calls to the district office are always, I just got hit by another uninsured motorist. I recognized that 5 years ago, and that's why I supported a version of this bill. It's refined now, it's good, it's common sense legislation. You know, you could say what you want, whatever prejudices you may have, or whatever concerns you have, this is common sense. We all share in the cost in our insurance premiums to cover the cost of uninsured motorists. And you could deny it all you want, but it's the truth. And I've seen this over the last 20 years. It's time. We're going to pass this bill this week, and it's great to be up here with my Republican colleagues and prominent Republicans, because it's time in this state that we realize there is a problem, take the blinders off, address the problem, hit it head on, and take care and protect our citizens in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I also want to recognize Representative Pritchard, who just joined us as well. So we're going to, this bill has had strong bipartisan support. We have Republican leaders, as you see here today, in support of this, and Senator John Cullerton, lead sponsor in the Senate, Representative Acevedo in the House. We believe that just back in 2007, there was strong bipartisan support. We hope to pass this measure this year. If you look at the Highway Safety Coalition website, you see that there are a number of sponsors, endorsers of this bill from the business community, faith community, the unions as well. So I want to stop here at a press conference and open up for questions that people may have.
Leaders Cross and Radogno.
Question for Bill Brady, please.
No, is he a member of the Legislative Correspondence Association?
Oh, I just have a question for Senator Bill Brady, if I may. Senator, first of all, you're aware that that Governor George Ryan is in prison today because of an illegal driver's license scandal. The Willis family lost 6 children due to that tragedy. Are you seriously standing here today in light of George Ryan's conviction, in light of the Willis family tragedy that we know of and countless others that are not as celebrated, and supporting this bill in direct conflict with the state and national GOP's position on illegal immigration?
First of all, I appreciate you bringing to light a question that is clearly part of the reason I'm supporting this bill. This is about licensing and testing people. In the case of George Ryan, we all know that that individual was led to believe and believed to bought a license through bribery, wasn't tested, wasn't educated. This works to improving road safety by making sure that more motorists are educated, trained, and tested, which is a key difference here. I don't believe this also flies in the face of the Republican Party platform. This is about keeping our roads safe.
You got your question. Leaders Cross and Radogno, is there any reason to believe this will not pass, given the support here today? Is it a sure thing that it'll pass?
Well, no, it's not a sure thing because it hasn't gone all the way through the legislative process. Obviously, it still has to go through the House. The version I'm supporting and supported in committee last week is with the specific amendments that have been worked out with the various groups. If it changes, obviously everyone needs to reevaluate.
This version, as it stands now, is there any reason to think that it won't pass both houses?
But I can only speak to the Senate.
There have been 3 news conferences, 3 events on this in as many weeks.
Well, I think the other point I'd make is we're just seeing this bill, but we had a number of, I think we had 9 or 10 folks on it last time, so I'm hopeful we'll have a comparable number at least, and certainly I'm supportive and will help get it passed. So Chris is right, no one knows what will happen, but today and the previous event certainly helps, and I hope it will.
Were you not supportive on November 20th when they had an event in Chicago?
Go ahead, Lawrence, I can get that.
Just to be fair to the legislators, I mean, the legislation was crafted last week, so there wasn't final legislation for the leader to review until last week.
We didn't have a chance, right, and your spokeswoman said she didn't have a chance to talk to you at the time, so I just wanted to hear from you.
Well, I think what's very simple, as Lawrence just said, we didn't have a bill. We've seen the bill, I like the bill, I'm supportive of the bill. That's why I'm here.
both leaders here. I'm curious, can you speak though to the way the elections went, obviously, and Republicans did not fare well with Latino voters. To what extent did the election's outcome influence, the party's involvement here today with this united front?
Well, as I said earlier, this is not a new issue, and it has had bipartisan engagement for 5 years. I think what we see now is both sides coming together and some movement on both sides to get a product that we can actually move the ball forward. And that's good public policy, and we should be celebrating it, not questioning it.
Can someone ask, how does it work with insurance? How does this lead the illegal immigrants to make sure that they have insurance? Do they have to show proof of insurance before they get a driver's license?
No, so this legislation, we've written in here, would make the TVDL invalid if they can't produce a proof of insurance at a routine traffic stop. So when they get pulled over, they will ask for their ID, TVDL, driver's license, as well as their proof of insurance. If they do not prove that, then they will get issued a ticket for not having the insurance, as well as a ticket invalidating their TVDL. We believe that this is a strong deterrent. Having insurance is already mandated in the state. This makes it takes an extra step in terms of invalidating their license for not having the required insurance.
Was there any discussion of making it where they have to have already gone after insurance before the temporary driver's license?
Well, as I understand, insurance goes with the vehicle, right? They not have.
I'm sorry, it just seems like someone could still be hit by someone who's licensed but not insured.
Well,
And if you tied it where they had to have insurance before they were licensed, then I didn't know if anyone's discussed that.
yeah.
Do you have all the support?
I'm sorry, I'm just not, did you? I didn't hear an answer.
We've been working in good faith to try to put together this piece of legislation. If there are other issues that need to be raised, we're certainly open to it, but we've been working in good faith with all the respective parties to put forth legislation that can work for everyone.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.